In this video, we're going to see how to execute some algorithms iterating over the features of a vector layer. We are going to see an example with this raster layer that I have here, a detail elevation model, and this polygons layer with 3 polygons representing basins, watersheds. Imagine that I want to if I want to crop this raster layer with the vector layer, so I want to have a new raster layer that contains values of elevation just inside those polygons. I can open the toolbox and use the algorithm named crop grid with polygon layer. I will select here the detail elevation model that I want to crop, and then the polygon layer that I want to use to crop that input raster layer. I click on OK, and here is the resulting layer, and as you can see, the extent of the raster layer is just the minimum extent that covers the input polygons, and there are elevation values only inside those polygons and the no data value outside. Now let's take this layer away, and now imagine that I want to do that not for all the polygons at the same time, but for each one of them. That is, I want to have one new raster layer that covers the extent of this polygon and has values inside, then another raster layer with values just inside this polygon, and the same for this third one. What I can do is to select the polygon layer and now select one of the polygons. And now if I run the same algorithm, since I have just one polygon selected, it will execute the algorithm taking only this polygon. I can do that 3 times and I will get the results that I'm looking for. But imagine that instead of having 3, I have 50 or 100 polygons in a polygon layer, then that would mean a long time to get the results that I want to obtain. Instead of that, I can execute iteratively the algorithm iterating over each one of these polygons. When I execute an algorithm and I iterate over the features of a vector layer, what it does is generating one new vector layer containing just one single polygon, and then run the algorithm, and then generates a new vector layer with a second polygon, and again it executes the algorithm, and so on until it has done that with every one of the polygons in the vector layer. To execute an algorithm and iterate over the features of an input vector layer, I can do that from a toolbox. I will just look for the same algorithm, crop with polygon layer, and if the algorithm takes some kind of vector input layer, when I right click here, I will see this option, run iteratively, and then the name of the input that I want to iterate over. In this case, there's only one vector input, polygons layer, so I just have one option, but I might have several of them depending on the number of vector inputs in the algorithm. I just click on the name, and the parameters window that you see is exactly the same as the one that you will see when you execute the algorithm normally, but in this case, instead of just executing it once, it's going to execute it as many times as features are in the layer, in the input that I'm iterating over, in this case this polygons layer. So I select my detail elevation model, my basins layer here, and now when I click on OK, it will just call that algorithm, the crop grid with polygon layer algorithm, 3 times, one for each time, once for each feature that it's contained in the polygon layer. Let's see how this works. You see, that's 1 out of 3, 2 out of 3, and 3 out of 3, and each of this layer has just one polygon. That's why it says 1 out of 1. And you can see I have 3 new results here, 3 new layers that have been obtained executing this algorithm iteratively over each one of these polygons in the input polygons layer.